Hey everyone, it's David, and welcome back to Maximum Arrowverse. Last time on Maximum Arrowverse, we ranked the top 10 moments of the first season of the CW superhero show Arrow. If you haven't seen that video yet, there's a link in the description below this video. There's also a link to my very first video, an analysis of Arrow Season 1 as a whole. Now, let's get back to business. Today, I am going to rank the top 10 fight scenes of Arrow's first season. Choreography, stakes, and cinematography will all be points of consideration. I've also decided not to include training scenes since these aren't straight out fights. However, as the scenes in question may be highly relevant to the plot of Arrow Season 1, I'm obligated to drop a major spoiler warning here. This is Arrow Season 1. Number 10. Oliver vs. Malcolm Merlyn, Round 2, Episode 22, Darkness at the Edge of Town. After he finds out that Merlyn Sr. is the Dark Archer, Oliver sets out to take him down. The reason that this fight scene is ranked so low, while the other Hood Dark Archer brawls are ranked much higher up, is that this fight barely lasts a minute before Oliver is knocked out. In fact, the real purpose of this scene is not to be a good fight sequence, it's so that this season's penultimate episode will end on a cliffhanger. Number 9. Oliver vs. China White, Episode 2, Honor Thy Father. While Oliver tries to cross off one of the names on his list, he comes into conflict with the Triad agent China White. This scene makes the spot due to the choppy camera work and quick cutaways, which make it almost impossible to see who is the better fighter. Number 8. Oliver Takes Down Thugs, Episode 1, Pilot. Having recently returned from Lianyu, Oliver is given a tour of Starling City by Tommy Merlyn to catch up on what he has missed in the last 5 years. Unfortunately, Oliver and Tommy get kidnapped by thugs in masks, who then attempt to interrogate Oliver about his father's final moments. However, Oliver quickly gets free and turns the tables on his would-be torturers, ruthlessly taking down all three in just over a minute. This is in fact the show's first fight scene, and it does a good job setting up how dangerous Oliver is. Yet this scene doesn't get a higher spot because the stakes are fairly low, as you never get the feeling that Oliver is in any true danger. Number 7. Oliver vs. the Count, Episode 12, Vertigo. After Oliver's sister Thea crashes her car after ingesting a dose of vertigo, Oliver sets out to take out the man behind the vertigo drugs, known as the Count. Before this point, there hadn't really been a personal motivation behind Oliver hunting down someone on his list. The Count hadn't even been originally part of his plan to fix Starling City, but Oliver's determination to bring the Count to his version of justice stems from him being Oliver, not the Hood, and the episode in question is better for it. Having taken down several of the Count's henchmen, Oliver finally engages the Count and subdues him. Even if the actual fight between the Hood and the Count was quick, even for this list, it's still a memorable fight scene. Number 6. Oliver Storms the Mansion, Episode 13, Betrayal. When criminal Cyrus Vanch is released from prison, he wastes no time trying to bring down the Hood. After he learns that Laurel Lange has been working with the Hood, Vanch kidnaps Laurel to get the Hood's attention. This forces Oliver to team up with the man who had been hunting him down for the last 12 episodes, Detective Quentin Lance, Laurel's father. What follows is a gripping action set piece where the Hood brutally takes down scores of henchmen before making his way to Vanch, accompanied by the detective. Number 5. Oliver vs. Floyd Lawton, Episode 3, Lone Gunman. When assassin Floyd Lawton, aka Deadshot, arrives in Starling City, Oliver decides to deviate from his list of corrupt elites to stop Lawton for good. Earlier in the episode, Lawton managed to wing the Hood with a poisoned bullet, nearly killing him. This established Deadshot as a pretty big threat to Oliver, as he was the first villain to come seriously close to killing him. Number 4. Oliver takes down Hunt's henchman. Episode 1 Pilot. For Arrow's first villain of the week, Oliver had to cross off Adams Hunt's name from his list. Armed with nothing but a bow and several arrows, Oliver managed to quickly dismantle Hunt's security, and he transferred several $1,000,000 back to their original owners. This was the first time we saw Oliver as the Hood in action, and it was a great scene. Number 3. Oliver vs. Mr. Blank, Episode 20, Home Invasion. Another spot on this list, another battle with an assassin. When the dangerous Mr. Blank comes to the Queen Mansion to eliminate a young witness to his crimes, Oliver doesn't need to bring a fight to anyone. This fight scene is made much more tense than it otherwise would be by the fact that Oliver doesn't have access to any of his gear or his suit. He has to defeat Blank without his main weapons. Number 2. Oliver vs. Merlin, Round 1, Episode 9, Year's End. Now, this was a good fight scene. When Season 1's main villain, the Dark Archer, real name Malcolm Merlin, makes his first appearance, it's a memorable one. The Dark Archer takes several hostages to draw in the Hood. Once Oliver does the heroic thing and rescues the hostages, the Dark Archer makes his move. For once, since his return to Starling City, Oliver is thoroughly outmatched from beginning to end. Instead of hunting the bad guy like he normally does, he's forced to run and hide, and is left badly wounded and completely demoralized. Number 1. Oliver vs. Merlin, Round 3, Episode 23, Sacrifice. After 2 fights with Dark Archer, each time ending with his defeat, Oliver fights Malcolm for the 3rd and final time, this season anyway. Malcolm is ready to activate his Earthquake machine, which would devastate a huge chunk of Starling City and cause the deaths of hundreds. After a brutal brawl, Oliver barely manages to defeat Malcolm, seemingly killing him. And that's a wrap. Next week I'm going to analyze the acclaimed 2nd season of Arrow. If that sounds like something you might be interested in watching, I humbly ask you to subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to set the notifications from the default personalized to all, or you might miss the next video. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a comment and like. It helps my videos reach new people. See you next week. David out.